There was a lady who lived right across the street from our house. She was called Jenny. It's not her real name, though. Everyone avoided her house at all costs. Everyone avoided going near her yard. Even the neighbors who lived right next to her home always avoided her, even going as far as to not step on their own lawn, corresponding to the direction Jenny's house was. But that wasn't always the case. You see, Jenny used to work at the local agricultural research center. Everyone loved her. She was beautiful, smart, and she had a bright and cheery personality. She was very kind, and she graduated from a famous university in the city. This was practically unheard of in her town. It was very rare to see someone come back once they've been given access into the city. But Jenny did, and so everyone adored Jenny. I mean, she was beautiful, smart, had a bright and cheery personality, and she was loyal to the community. Jenny contributed a lot to the Agricultural Research Center. In fact, she even affected the farmers' income and the community's economy as a whole. She developed these seeds. The farmers would plant them, and they would grow healthy regardless of whatever weather we were experiencing. Well, except winter. For that, she proposed a collapsible greenhouse, and with the help of the community's engineers and an architect, they built one. And there was no more shortage of produce. In fact, there was surplus. The community could finally afford to sell some of the produce to other communities. Our community had become popular, important. Everything was normal for a few months. Jenny loved reading up on current events. She even had newspapers delivered to her front door every morning. This was a very rare occurrence, seeing as these were published from the city. You see, the town has its own newspaper that people can get from the library. However, to get those from the city, you need to request a pass. Jenny had one. She got those newspapers on her porch every single morning. As time passed, Jenny became very obsessed with the newspapers she read. She would often mention meteor showers and alien life forms whenever she talked with anyone. Jenny became absorbed by this, and she even quit her job at the agricultural center and opted to stay home. I don't know how this affected her next actions, but Jenny completely changed. At first, Jenny grew her own garden. She used the seeds she had developed. Then she switched to planting what looked like Davina's flytraps. These grew as big as a person, and the community leader ordered her to cut it down as it was causing quite a scare within the community. Jenny obliged, but that didn't stop her. Are you familiar with the term crazy cat lady? Jenny was this, except instead of cats, you put plants. From time to time, if you took a peek at Jenny's window, you'll be able to see a wide array of plants that you wouldn't think existed. There's even a time a vine completely broke off a part of her roof. It just got way too big. Jenny didn't even think of repairing her broken roof. And because the community forbade her from planting in her yard, she planted inside her home. And from that broken roof and her shattered windows, you'd be able to see plants. Big ones, small ones, flowering ones, fruit-bearing ones, scary ones. All of them and more. At this point, she had long been labeled as a lunatic, and everyone had started avoiding her altogether. One of the occupants living next to her house even opted to move to a different community. Jenny became like the plague. Her real name wasn't to be mentioned anymore, and the people thought of it as a curse. I read this quote from a book before. She became the one who shall not be named. This became an unspoken rule in our town, and pretty soon everyone forgot her real name. That was when everyone decided to call her Jenny. Jenny still received the newspaper every morning. This became the only glimpses of her that we saw. Everyone peeked through her blinds whenever Jenny went to collect the newspapers. Although everyone avoided her, everyone was intrigued. Why weren't our leaders kicking her out? Why was she holding herself up at home? Did she become like the ones from comic book series who turned crazy, has all their hair sticking out, and wears ragged clothes? The answer is no. Jenny looked in every way like the same Jenny. She was beautiful, and she was still bright and cheerful. She smiled at the newspaper delivery guys every morning. Jenny was still Jenny, and this drove people to avoid her more. Then, the messenger came. At this point, everyone in town knew about Jenny and had branded her as an outcast. The newspaper delivery from the city didn't come to Jenny's house that day. In its place, one of the messengers from the company came. He was dressed in an all-white suit, sunglasses covering his eyes. He had talked with her for a few minutes before handing her a small white cube. Upon contact with Jenny's hand, it glowed blue. Jenny's face beamed up with the happiest smile we had ever seen. She must have received a very pleasant message, is what I thought at the time, but it doesn't really match what happened next. The fire started the next morning. Company had sent a white limousine in front of her house. Jenny was already waiting outside, a suitcase handle in one hand and the white cube in the other. The driver had helped her get her suitcase in the car, to which she was boarding in. Jenny clicked the cube and a fire ignited within her home. The fire spread rapidly, and before the car had even gotten to the end of the street, her house was engulfed in flames. You could see the fire dancing through her shattered windows, through the broken roof, moving like they're performing some kind of dance ritual. The fire was loud, sounding like a shrill scream. I was the only one peeking through the blinds that day. It was 9 a.m., so everyone had gone to their respective workplaces. But I was there. There was no school that day, so I was able to watch. I watched as Jenny smiled at what was once her home, and I watched as she turned her head. Her eyes had locked with mine, and she smiled at me. That was the last time anyone inside the town ever saw Jenny. The fire had carried on for 3 days and 2 nights. The shrill screams I heard from it stopped when the night came. The firemen did not come. They said the fire would not spread, so we need not worry. Even if Jenny's house had turned to ashes, no one would dare go near the place. In fact, people were so scared of the ashes, they even had a petition to cover it with a quarantine bubble. The community leaders did so, probably to stop a panic from happening. Our community had firmly believed that there might have been a poisonous plant hidden within her home somewhere, and the ashes might poison them. That didn't really make sense to me, but I guess I sort of see the point. Jenny was never mentioned after that incident. The only remnant of her existence was the quarantine bubble over where her house used to be. Other than that, it was like she never existed. Until a few months later, that is. It was a town festival. Everyone was having fun and dancing. They even had an inflatable castle for us kids. Then the town leader took stage for a speech. The leader's next words took the breath out of everyone. You could hear their gasps and exclamations as the leader spoke. Dear townspeople, it is such a great honor to be with you today. I would like to inform you that Miss Sierra Coleman has been transferred into the city and into the company's main branch. This has brought great honor to our town, and to this, I want to propose a toast. I can't remember what he said about that. All I remember thinking was, who was this person? as I never heard that name before. Why was everyone so surprised about this? Well, there was a check yesterday. The people who do these checks usually have nameplates pinned on their right chest area. So imagine my surprise when I looked at the nameplate and saw Sierra Coleman written on there. Shocked, I looked up at her face, covered in that white and clear helmet they usually wore with their white overalls. She had that same smile plastered on her face, just like when she left town.